Hi, my name is Cristi Van Horn, and I'm going to present to you my critiques of Bloom's taxonomy: hierarchical, outdated, and teacher-centered. The three critiques that I presented are: 1, the learning processes are falsely presented as hierarchical or linear rather than synchronous. 2, the basis for the taxonomy is outdated and not supported by science. And 3, Bloom focused on teacher-centered, not learner-centered targets. The first critique is of the false hierarchy. Modern brain research shows that learning does not happen in a linear progression or hierarchy with defined lines between each process. Rather, many or even all of these levels often happen simultaneously as our neurons fire and rewire in many places of the brain at once. Our brains and learning are more like double bubble map with many parts interconnected, rather than a flow map that follows a set order. The second critique is of the outdated brain research. Bloom's taxonomy was created over 65 years ago in 1956 during the Cold War with very outdated social and educational contexts. Current knowledge of brain functions was not available when he developed that taxonomy, and it was not based on peer-reviewed scientific research. Modern science and understanding of brain function supports learning as a cyclical and synchronous process rather than hierarchical or linear. And third, critique of using teacher-centered over learner-centered targets. Bloom's taxonomy attempts to scientifically measure and objectify human learning that is subjective and complex to measure. His processes do not focus on the learner's diverse background knowledge, cognitive processes, values, and motivations. Dr. Jason Barney states, so then we can break down the bad of Bloom's under two headings. 1, it's scientific philosophy obsessed with objectivity and measurability. And 2, it's social scientific focus on neutrality rather than a holistic embrace of traditional moral philosophy. Now, on to ways we can develop better instructional objectives. We could consider learner-centered designs of instruction that focus on the process of learning being shifted to the learners. We can focus on objectives that require critical thinking for all learners and take the learner's background experiences, cognitive processing, values, and motivation into account. Dr. Case suggests that inviting students to offer reasoned judgments is a more fruitful way of framing learning tasks than is the use of verbs clustered around levels of thinking that are removed from evaluative judgments. Cognitive research-based alternatives to Bloom's taxonomy are inquiry-based learning targets, including how to learn the process in the targets rather than just the content. For example, using teaching models such as the jigsaw method, which incorporates learner-centered design with critical thinking. As students are directly engaging with the material, they're also getting practice in self-teaching, peer teaching, socially emotional learning skills like autonomy, competence, intrinsic motivation. They're also contributing to a group and being encouraged to cooperate and valuing all of the other students' contributions. Continuing with the alternatives to Bloom's taxonomy, according to Dr. Ron Berger, he suggests students learn through applying and creating things rather than a specific learning target. So this puts the learning on the learner and is a more realistic model of real-life learning. Learners will engage in research, making prototypes, critiquing, and revising as they build the knowledge and understanding all at the same time, which supports current cognitive research that we know all of these processes are happening simultaneously. So, wrapping it up. While Bloom's taxonomy does offer helpful guidance in having clearly defined learning objectives as we design learning, it has some drawbacks. Namely, learning processes are falsely presented as hierarchical and linear. It is outdated, and it is teacher-centered rather than learner-centered. We know that cognitive functions do not occur separately, but synchronously, and we have access to much better research and understanding of the brain and its cognitive processes from scientific studies over the past 67 years. We also know that learner-centered models like the jigsaw method and others, rather than teacher-centered learning objectives and designs, align with that research and better support learning. We can use this information to develop learning objectives that are learner-centered, inquiry-based, and that are better informed by learners' background experiences, cognitive processing, values, and motivation. References used for this presentation are shown here. And thank you for listening and watching my presentation. Have a great day.